Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to a new episode of our Letter to Vox podcast.
And today we are really launching into a massive subject. We're doing a deep dive into what is, well, arguably the defining work of Western drama.
Sophocles' Cunning Oedipus,
Oh.
or as most of us know it in English, Oedipus Rex.
Exactly. And that title, it's so much more than just a play. It's become the blueprint, the ultimate story of destiny, of self-discovery, and, well, catastrophic failure.
And the sources we're looking at today aren't just a plot summary. They come from a really detailed scholarly edition, which means we get to grapple with the original text, its incredible history, and all the interpretive problems that have kept people arguing for literally millennia.
That's the mission. We're exploring this tragedy not just for the shocking story beats, but for the profound questions it asks. Questions about knowledge, about fate, and the real limits of being human.
Its reputation is just immense, isn't it? It's staggering. We have records from the 1st century CE where some unnamed author claimed that no sensible person would value all the work of Sophocles' contemporary, Ion of Chios, as highly as this one single play.
Wow.
That tells you everything. Its impact was immediate and foundational.
So there's clearly a lot more going on here than just a compelling murder mystery with a horrifying twist. This is more like a philosophical earthquake disguised as a play.
A perfect way to put it. So, to unpack all of that, let's start with the man himself. We need to ground ourselves a bit in the playwright, Sophocles.
Right. Sophocles. And just so we're all on the same page, the emphasis is on the first syllable, Sophocles. He was, a titan of the Athenian Golden Age.
Absolutely.
A central figure.
And from the biographical info we have, which comes from ancient accounts like the Vita and the Suda Encyclopedia, we know he was a contemporary of Aeschylus and Euripides. He was active all through the 5th century BCE and just incredibly successful. I think he won the big Dionysia festival something like 20 times.
He did. And what's so crucial for us is that Oedipus Rex is one of only 7 of his tragedies that actually made it through antiquity.
Only 7. Out of how many?
Probably over 120. The reason we have this one is that it was selected for something called the Byzantine Trias.
The Byzantine Trias.
It was a highly valued school selection, a sort of greatest hits list for students alongside his plays Aias and Electra. Because it was on that core curriculum, it was copied and read continuously, and that's what ensured it survived.
It's amazing to think we have this masterpiece because, essentially, later academics put it on a syllabus.
It is.
Speaking of time, let's jump into one of the biggest scholarly debates right away. When was Oedipus Rex first performed? For such a famous play, it seems odd that we can't pin down an exact date.
Well, it really speaks to how sparse our records from ancient Athens are, but also, as you said, to the play's complexity. The arguments for its premiere date span about 20 years of Sophocles' career. It's a classic puzzle of scholarship.
So give us the range of dates, and maybe more importantly, what does a difference of, say, 10 or 20 years actually mean for how we read the play?
Okay, so on one end, you have scholars like Mueller, who lean toward an early date, maybe 433 BCE, though even he admitted it was uncertain. Then you have other suggestions, like 426 BCE, or even later, around 413 BCE.
So we're talking about the difference between a pre-Plague of Athens context versus something mid-Peloponnesian War, or even after the Sicilian expedition, which was a total disaster for Athens.
Precisely, and the reading changes completely. If you take that early date, 433, the play could be seen as a kind of warning against Athenian arrogance, against that hubris that was building right before the war started.
So Oedipus, the brilliant riddle solver, is a symbol of Athens' overconfidence in its own intellect.
Exactly, before the horror of the real plague and a long, drawn-out war hit them. But if you place it later, say 413 BCE...
then the whole meaning shifts.
Completely. It becomes a meditation on shattered confidence. The plague in the play would resonate so deeply with the plagues that had already devastated Athens. The failure of Oedipus, this hyper-competent, brilliant leader to control his fate, would mirror the catastrophic failure of the Athenian Empire in Sicily.
So it becomes a reflection of a society that's already been humbled.
Right, a society questioning its whole rational enlightenment project. The fact that scholars are still debating this 20-year span just shows how deeply the play speaks to different kinds of crisis.
That's a fantastic point. Now, before we get into the plot itself, we have to talk about how the text even survived. How did this fragile thing, written for a single performance, make it all the way to us?
It's a really remarkable chain of preservation. The first big step was actually political. Around 330 BCE, an Athenian statesman named Lycurgus realized that the texts of the great tragedians, Sophocles, Aeschylus, Euripides, were getting corrupted.
Corrupted how? Do you mean actors were just changing the lines?
That's exactly it. During re-performances, actors would add their own favorite lines, or they'd cut difficult bits, or just make simple copy errors. So Lycurgus stepped in and created what's called a state exemplar,
An official version.
the first state-sanctioned standardized text.
That's an incredible move to protect a cultural legacy.
Yeah.
But how effective could that really be? I mean, wouldn't actors who knew the lines a certain way just keep performing them that way?
That's a great point, and enforcement probably wasn't perfect. But creating the exemplar established a baseline, a standard, and that baseline became absolutely critical for what came next, the Alexandrian philologists.
The scholars in Alexandria, starting in the 3rd century BCE, they took that text and made it, well, academic.
Yes, they created these incredible scholarly editions. They added things like hypotheses, which are detailed summaries of the myth and plot,
Mm.
and didascalia, which were performance records like who won the competition that year. All of that helped stabilize the text intellectually.
And then came the final huge bottleneck, the physical medium itself, right? The switch from scrolls to books.
That was the ultimate challenge. The shift from papyrus rolls to the parchment codex, the book format we know, happened over several centuries. A papyrus roll could maybe hold one or two tragedies. A codex could hold many more, but
That was expensive and time-consuming, so choices had to be made about what was worth copying over.
the cultural gatekeepers of the Byzantine era had to choose. And that's how we ended up with only 7 of Sophocles' plays, including that educational trias we mentioned, Oedipus Rex, Aias, Electra. Its sheer cultural importance ensured it made the cut. It's truly a miracle of textual history.
It really makes the text feel that much more precious. Okay, let's shift to the structure of the play itself. It's useful to understand the basic architecture of the tragedy.
Absolutely. And for that, we can rely on the structure that Aristotle codified in his Poetics. Understanding these basic parts really helps you appreciate Sophocles' pacing.
So lay them out for us.
It starts with the prologos. That's the opening scene before the chorus enters. Then the chorus comes in with a parodos, their entrance song. The main action happens in the episodion. Those are the scenes with the actors. And they're broken up by the stasima, which are the songs the chorus sings while standing in the orchestra.
And it all wraps up with the exodos.
The concluding part. And we should also keep an eye out for something called a komos. It's a powerful, lamenting exchange between an actor and the chorus. It usually signals a moment of complete emotional breakdown.
Got it. And the prologos of Oedipus Rex just throws us right into the middle of a crisis. The scene opens with a priest and a group of suppliants outside Oedipus's house.
The visual is so stark. The city is in a state of total collapse.
Yeah.
They're there to beg for salvation from a catastrophic plague, the loimos. And Sophocles' imagery is just devastating from the first lines.
The city sways too much, he says.
Yes, it's rocking dangerously, unable to lift its head from the depths of the deadly wave surge. It is literally drowning in death.
That wave metaphor is so powerful, it makes it feel like a force of nature, something totally beyond human control.
It is. The plague is called the fire-bearing god, a most hateful disease. It's total ruin. Crops are failing, cattle are dying, women are barren. And the sources point out this horrifying detail. The god Hades is getting rich from all the groans and laments. The city is becoming an annex of the underworld.
And the people don't go to the temples first, they go directly to Oedipus.
They do. And this is so critical for understanding his position. They appeal to him, not as a god, but as the first among men at dealing with life's problems and, divine interventions. They bring up his greatest hits,
His victory over the Sphinx.
the cruel singer. They emphasize that he succeeded not because someone taught him, but through his own natural wits, or maybe with some divine help.
And that immediately sets up the play's central conflict, doesn't it? This tension between human intellect and prophetic truth.
It's all there in the first few minutes. And Oedipus, to his credit, seems to be the ideal ruler. He's proactive, he's empathetic, he tells them he's already suffering for them, for the whole city, and he's already taken action.
Right. He's sent Creon, his brother-in-law, to Delphi to consult the oracle of Apollo.
So he's already on the case, using both human agency and respecting traditional piety. Then Creon returns.
And he's wearing a crown of laurel, which is a good sign.
A very good sign. The oracle's command is clear. The city has to expel the miasma, the defilement, the pollution that's living within its borders.
And the source of that pollution is specific.
Very. The murder of the former king, Laius, has to be atoned for, either by banishing the killer or by atoning death with death.
The mission is clear. Find the killer. But the details Creon provides about Laius's death, that's where the complication that drives the whole plot comes in.
It's a masterstroke of dramatic writing. Laius was murdered outside the city at a place where three carriageways meet. That location, the three crossroads, becomes this anchor of dread in Oedipus's mind later on.
But the crucial detail, the one that Oedipus glides right over at first, is that the only surviving witness claimed Laius was killed by robbers, plural.
Yes, not a single attacker. That one little word is the thread that Oedipus and Jocasta will cling to for half the play. It's the perfect setup for the crushing reveal later. It's like a red herring planted by fate itself.
And Oedipus, ready to be the hero again, immediately issues his terrible edict, which just seals his own doom.
Let's talk about that edict. The dramatic irony is just off the charts. Oedipus takes on the role of investigator, of avenger, and he says he'll fight for justice in this case as if it were for his own father.
Which, horrifyingly, it is.
The terms of his curse are brutal and absolute. He puts out a public ban. No citizen is allowed to speak to the killer, give him shelter, share prayers or sacrifices with him. He's to be driven from every house, an outcast.
A public pollution. And then there's the private curse, which our sources say might have been added later, but it's so key to the plot.
It is absolutely central to his personal tragedy. In those lines, Oedipus wishes for the unknown killer to wretchedly destroy his unhappy life, and then he adds the killer blow.
If the murderer turns out to be a housemate in my own house, and I knew it, then he calls the very same curses down upon himself.
He uses his own authority, his own righteous anger, to build the perfect cage for himself, and then he locks the door with his own words.
While all this is happening, the chorus of Theban elders enters with the parodos. Their fear is just palpable.
You can feel it. They're swinging between total panic and this desperate hope. They call on the gods for protection. Athena, Artemis, Apollo, they just want the divine order to be restored.
And their description of the plague just builds on what we heard in the prologue.
It does. They can't even count the dying. There are corpses everywhere, unburied, unmourned. And the Himerion, which is supposed to be a hymn of joy or healing, is being sung right alongside wails of grief. Joy and sorrow have just melted together into one sound.
And then they personify the enemy, which is fascinating. They link the disease to a moral failing.
They call it the raging Ares, the god of war. But he's attacking without bronze shields. This isn't a human army. The enemy's invisible, supernatural. They pray to Zeus to just strike this thing down with a lightning bolt.
Which just confirms that concept of miasma. The plague isn't some random sickness. It's a divine attack, a symptom of the god's anger over the unresolved murder.
So the search for the killer isn't just a criminal investigation. It's an urgent ritual cleansing, a spiritual necessity. And that need for absolute truth leads directly to the defining confrontation of the play.
The meeting with the blind prophet, Tiresias.
The chorus leader is the one who suggests it. He says they should consult Tiresias, who sees the same things as Lord Phoebus, who has the truth born within him.
And Oedipus says he's already sent for him. Twice. He's still being the proactive king. He calls the prophet the city's only protector and savior.
But when Tiresias finally arrives, he's full of dread. This is not the grand entrance of a savior. This is a man who wishes he can unknow what he knows. His first line just captures the entire tragedy.
How terrible is knowledge when it does not profit the man who knows?
That line is so powerful. It proposes that truth isn't always a good thing. It can be a destructive force, especially when it reveals the absolute limits of your own control.
And Oedipus, who is all about action and immediate answers, just can't accept Tiresias' reluctance. He sees it as betrayal. He just explodes.
He accuses him of treachery, even suggests he might have helped plan the murder. This is that famous temper of Oedipus bubbling to the surface. He pushes and pushes until Tiresias, backed into a corner, finally drops the bomb.
You are the murderer, I say, of the man whose murderer you seek.
The truth is delivered. It's absolute. It's direct. And Oedipus's reaction is not fear or even doubt. It's immediate intellectual deflection.
He goes straight to conspiracy theory. He says it's a plot orchestrated by Creon to steal the throne. He cannot even begin to process the idea that he, the great riddle solver, could be so wrong.
This redirection of his anger is so key to his character. He can't tolerate a truth that invalidates his whole life story, his intellectual supremacy. So he mocks Tiresias' blindness, calls him a scheming, intriguing holy man, a phony priest who only sees when there's profit involved.
He even throws his victory over the Sphinx in the prophet's face. This is where that Sophoclean critique of the whole Athenian Enlightenment project really comes into focus.
It's the central intellectual battle of the play. Oedipus shouts, I, Oedipus, who knew nothing, ended her business. I hit the mark with my own wits, not taught by birds.
He's directly attacking the art of prophecy, which often involved interpreting bird signs. He's championing human reason, logos over ancient, divinely inspired knowledge.
And you have to imagine the audience in 5th century Athens. With the rise of the sophists, who were all about human reason and challenging old religious beliefs, this moment would have hit so hard. Oedipus is defending an entire worldview.
The Enlightenment project versus the old traditions of piety.
Sophocles is asking a huge question. Can human reason really replace divine order? Oedipus's success against the Sphinx has made him dangerously confident that he can impose rational order on the moral universe, too. His hubris is fundamentally an intellectual one.
Let's just take a quick pause here, right before Tiresias delivers that final crushing prophecy.
Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoy this podcast. We're delving deep into the foundational tragedy, Oedipus Rex.
And we are back. Oedipus has just finished humiliating Tiresias, championing his own intellect over the prophet's divine sight. And Tiresias basically turns that back on him with this devastatingly specific description of the killer.
He does. He describes the man Oedipus is looking for. He will be found to be a native Theban. Blind though he once saw and poor though he was rich, he will travel to a foreign land, tapping the earth with a staff.
It's a prophecy that's also a description of Oedipus's future. It lays it all out. And yet, Oedipus, in his rage, he still doesn't see it.
His intellectual shield is just too strong. But then Tiresias gives him the horrific family details. He will be found to be brother and father to his own children, son and husband to the woman from whom he sprang, and the sower of his father's seed and his murderer.
Every single family relationship, corrupted and violated, it's all laid bare, but Oedipus just hears conspiracy. And this sets up the next act, with Jocasta trying to calm everyone down.
But first, Creon has to defend himself against this charge of treason. And his defense is just pure logic and pragmatism.
Right, Creon's argument is this fascinating critique of tyranny.
It is. He basically says, why would I want the stress of being the tyrant when I already have all the perks?
Yeah.
He shares power with Oedipus and Jocasta. He gets all the influence and respect, but without fear. It's a cold, logical argument that's the complete opposite of Oedipus's hot-headed rage.
He even offers a way to test his story. Send someone to Delphi and check his report of the oracle. The chorus steps in and basically tells Oedipus to cool down.
And then Jocasta arrives to stop the fight. And her strategy is to solve the problem by just completely invalidating prophecy itself.
She declares that no mortal being has a share in the art of soothsaying, and she uses her own life as the proof.
She brings up the oracle given to her husband Laius, that he would die by the hand of his own son. And she explains the very rational, very extreme action they took to stop it. They had the infant's feet bound and left it to die on a mountain.
And her proof that it all worked. Laius was killed by foreign robbers at a crossroads, so the oracle was wrong, prophecy is worthless.
It's the absolute peak of their shared tragic hubris. She proudly says that if a god really wants something to happen, he'll make it happen himself without needing human prophets.
But in her attempt to comfort Oedipus, she gives him the one clue that unravels everything. It causes him, as the text says, intense spiritual distress. What is it that finally gets through to him?
He latches onto 3 key details. First, location, where 3 wagonways meet. He remembers a place like that. Second, the timing. It happened right before he arrives in Thebes. And third, the description of Laius. Tall, with white hair just starting, and not far removed from your form.
That last detail is so chilling, a visual echo.
The fear instantly jumps from being about some abstract prophecy to being about a concrete memory. He knows he killed a man at that time in a place just like that, but he still has one out.
The single survivor who said it was robbers.
Yes. That one witness is the key. Jocasta confirms that after Oedipus became king, the man begged to be sent away to the fields, as far from the city as possible. Oedipus knows this is the one person who can either confirm the plural robbers story or destroy it. He immediately demands the man be brought back.
And now, filled with this dread, Oedipus finally shares his own backstory, which apparently he's never told Jocasta before.
Right. He starts with his childhood in Corinth, son of King Polybus and Queen Maripa, but then comes the drunken slander.
At a party, some drunk guy calls him a false son.
And that one comment sends him on his quest for the truth. He goes to Delphi to ask about his parentage.
But the god Loxus doesn't answer his question. Instead, he gives him that horrifying prophecy.
That he would unite with his own mother and shed his father's blood with his own hands. The entire tragedy right there.
So, just like his real father, Laius, tried to cheat fate by having him killed, Oedipus tries to cheat fate by running away from his parents.
He flees Corinth, using the stars to guide him, determined never to see Polybus and Merope again, and that rational decision to flee leads him directly to those three crossroads.
Where he recounts the story of the fight, killing the man in the carriage and all his attendants.
And this is the moment of realization. He understands that he might have fulfilled the first part of the prophecy, and that he may have just cursed himself, polluted the bed of the man he killed. He is self-banished.
And then, just as the tension is at its absolute peak, the Corinthian messenger arrives. And for a moment, it seems like a miracle.
It's the ultimate false hope. The messenger announces that Polybus, the king of Corinth, is dead, and Jocasta is ecstatic. She gloats.
She sees it as the final nail in the coffin for prophecy. Polybus is dead of old age. Oedipus didn't kill him, so the oracle was wrong.
But Oedipus is still afraid of the second half of the prophecy, the part about his mother, Merope, and the messenger, trying to comfort him, trying to put that fear to rest for good, delivers the final, fatal piece of the puzzle.
He tells Oedipus not to worry because he wasn't Polybus's real son anyway.
He was a foundling, and to prove it, the messenger brings up the physical mark, the old injury to his feet, the very thing that gave him his name. Oedipus, swollen foot.
So the fear of patricide is gone, but it's replaced by the terrifying uncertainty of his real birth, and the messenger connects it right back to Thebes.
He says he got the baby from one of Laius' own servants, a shepherd. And at this point, Oedipus still hasn't put it all together. He thinks Jocasta's upset because he might have been born a peasant.
The momentum is just unstoppable now. It's all rushing toward that final confession. And Jocasta, who now sees the whole hideous picture, she desperately tries to stop him.
It's her most anguished moment. She begs him, "Do not, by the gods, if you value your life, investigate this." She knows the truth will absolutely destroy him. She runs into the palace, screaming just one thing at him, "Wretched man!"
But Oedipus completely misreads her desperation.
He thinks it's snobbery. He calls himself a son of fortune, thinking fate is still on his side, and he demands that the old shepherd, the last witness, be brought in.
And when the shepherd arrives, he is terrified. He knows everything. And he will not talk.
Not until he's forced to, threatened by Oedipus's guards.
Yeah.
Then the whole story comes pouring out. He confirms he got the baby from the house of Laius, from Jocasta herself. She gave it to him with orders to kill it,
Out of fear of terrible prophecies.
that the child would kill its own father.
And the shepherd's one act of pity becomes the ultimate paradox of the play.
His mercy was the fatal mistake. Out of compassion, he gave the baby to the Corinthian messenger, hoping to save its life. And that one act of kindness is what saved the child to fulfill the entire prophecy.
And with that, light goes on for Oedipus, or rather, the darkness falls.
The intellectual arrogance is just shattered in an instant. He cries out, "Oh, light, may I look upon you for the last time now? I, who am revealed as born from whom I should not have been, consorting with whom I should not, and having killed those I should not have killed." And he runs into the house.
And Sophocles uses that technique, the mediated ending. A messenger comes out to tell us the horror that's happening inside.
The messenger describes Jocasta's suicide. She ran to her marriage bed, the site of the double marriage where she gave birth to her husband and her children, and she hangs herself.
The place of her violation becomes the place of her final escape. And then Oedipus comes in, not to kill himself, but to do something else.
He bursts in, finds her body, and he takes the gold pins from her dress. And he drives them, again and again, into his own eyes.
The self-blinding, it's the thematic core of the play, isn't it? The conflict between sight and knowledge. Why blindness?
His reasoning is a total reversal of his old self. He says his eyes should no longer see the evil he's done and the evil he's suffered. He wants to be blind and deaf to block out the unbearable knowledge. He says it is sweet for the mind to dwell outside of evils.
Physical darkness is better than the light that revealed the truth. He chooses ignorance over sight.
And the city is now left with this abomination. Their former savior is now their deepest pollution. And the play ends with the political aftermath.
Creon returns, and his character has this unexpected compassion and stability.
He does. He refuses to gloat or mock Oedipus. His first concern is for piety, for proper order. He says Oedipus must be taken inside because the misery of family should only be seen by family. The pragmatist becomes the man of piety.
And Oedipus is now just pathetic. He's completely dependent. He begs to be banished to Mount Cithaeron, the very place he was supposed to die as a baby.
And his last human act is to ask Creon to look after his daughters, Antigone and Ismene. He weeps for the future of mockery and isolation that awaits them because of his crimes. The tragedy shifts from the king to the innocent family.
And Creon, while compassionate, is now firmly in charge.
He is. He says he needs to consult the god again about the banishment, showing a measured, careful approach, the opposite of Oedipus's rashness. And he delivers that final moral lesson to Oedipus: will not to rule in all things, for even that which you attained rule over did not remain with you throughout your life.
The fall is complete. Okay, that brings us to the end of this incredible journey. Let's step back and synthesize the central statements. What are the key takeaways that Sophocles leaves us with?
I think there are three really critical ones that are just woven into the DNA of Oedipus Rex.
Okay, number one, the absolute unstoppable nature of divine prophecy.
Right. Both Laius and Oedipus used what they thought were extreme, rational actions to get around their prophecies, exposing a child, fleeing home. But those very actions became the gears in the machine that made the prophecies come true. You simply cannot outrun divine necessity.
The second takeaway has to be that theme of knowledge versus sight, embodied by Tiresias.
Exactly. Tiresias is physically blind, but he sees the spiritual truth. Oedipus has perfect sight, but is profoundly ignorant. His self-blinding at the end is the physical manifestation of his final, horrible self-knowledge. He realizes that sight without truth is worthless, and he chooses darkness to escape the light of that truth.
And the final statement, the one that's become almost universal, is about hubris.
This play is the definitive tragedy of hubris. Oedipus's intellectual arrogance, his pride in his own mind, made him think he could solve any problem, even the one set by the gods. And Sophocles shows that this kind of overweening pride, which climbs to the highest point, will always inevitably lead to a plunge into sudden necessity.
He goes from the first among men to a polluted beggar, all because he trusted his own wits over humility.
And the final word goes to the chorus. It's a chilling piece of wisdom that forces the audience to look at their own lives.
They say, hence, being mortal, one should look to that last day, regarding no man is happy until he has reached the goal of life without suffering any pain.
It's just a staggering piece of pessimistic wisdom. It basically says, all your achievements, all your successes, all your rational plans mean nothing. The only true measure of a happy life is getting to the end of it without being destroyed.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. If Sophocles is telling us that happiness can't be judged until the very end of the story, what does that mean for how we live today? Our modern idea of success is all about action, control, planning.
The tragedy asks if we are really any safer from that kind of uncontrollable chaos, call it fate or circumstance or just bad luck, than Oedipus was. It's a timeless and frankly terrifying invitation to recognize the profound limits of being human.